If you want to be in a relationship, you have to come together and collaborate on those things, to come together and decide, okay, these are the things we need to do with our finances.
Money doesn't change you. All money does is make you more of who you already are. Yeah, because why are you trying to have it?
Exactly. So be a man or be a woman about it.
Bite your lip. I've had money and I've not had money. I like having money better. You know what I'm saying, Teresa? Money, marriage, and mindset. How finances fuel or fracture love. Welcome to Marriage with Jim and Teresa. I'm your host, Jim. I'm joined by my co-host, my wife of the last 40 years, the mother of our 4 children, Teresa, the therapist.
Hey, Jim.
What's up, Teresa?
Oh, nothing much.
Today, we're diving into the hidden emotional layers under money stress, and we're going to offer a calm, collaborative model for financial intimacy. You know what I thought I'd do, Teresa? And you know, it's approaching my favorite time of year, fall, and the greatest sport in the history of sports, college football, my favorite time of the year. And I thought nothing symbolizes the importance of being on the same team more than this discussion about money. You and I are not financial enemies.
No.
We don't need to be working in for different goals, for different things. We need to be united.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we have our jerseys on today, representing one of our 4 children's universities, the University of Colorado Boulder.
All right, yeah.
So next time we'll have to do maybe another child, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Maybe we'll go to Tennessee State. Maybe we'll go to Valley Forge Military Academy. We'll try to get them all in.
Sounds good.
But anyway, finances are far more than dollars and cents in a relationship.
Yes.
It's about values, it's about trust, it's about security, control, and sometimes survival.
Absolutely.
How a couple earns, spends, saves, or hides money.
Oh.
Does that happen?
I think some people have done that, yes.
Can either fuel love or fracture it. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So, Teresa, what's on your mind about money?
I'm thinking spending styles. Some people are spenders, some people are savers, and I guess those are the main 2. So like that.
So you're saying in a relationship, and we talk a lot about the differences in men and women and how God puts different people together. If we were both the same, one of us would be unnecessary. So one of the ways I think what you're saying is that plays out when it comes to money. Oftentimes in a relationship, one spouse is naturally a spender and one spouse can be naturally a saver. Now, I have seen situations where they're both spenders and both savers. Okay. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Usually there's a little bit of distinction.
A little bit of a distinction.
Yeah.
So why is that? Is that a bad thing? Or the fact that we're different, is that a good thing? What do you have to say about that?
No, I think when you come together, it's not a bad thing that you're different in those areas. The main thing is that you come together and collaborate and decide what do we need to do because of how we'd like to spend or not spend. So money isn't the issue. You know, the big issue. No, it's what it means to each of us.
You know, when I think about money, I think about much like our whole story is, here's how we started teaching about money. Just like our whole story, we realized we were clueless, had no idea what we were doing. So I went through a process of becoming a certified financial trainer with Larry Burkett. This is way before Dave Ramsey, right?
And Ron Blue.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So remember our constant theme here, go get training. If you don't know something, find somebody to teach you so you can learn. So I started learning and then later on teaching this as a way to serve us. And it just blossomed out into something that we teach to other couples, but it started being all about us. So you were talking about oftentimes opposites attract. And so sometimes you've got, or you might even argue most of the time, you've got a spender and a saver together in a relationship.
Correct.
Now, what problems does that cause, or why is that an issue, or how do you see that play
Well,
out in the counseling world?
well, I don't see it as a problem, and I
Okay.
help them because one person is usually thinking if the person is a spender, that they're the problem, and if there's a financial issue, right?
No, wait a minute.
They're
If
probably
if
thinking that.
if
So I
if
try
one
to help
person's a
them
spender, the saver's normally thinking that the spender is the
is the
problem.
problem.
Okay, I
Uh-huh.
understand. Understand.
Mhm.
Okay, keep going.
So I try to help them see that neither one of them are the problem,
Okay.
or
Okay.
the
There's
spender.
different.
The
There's different.
spender is not necessarily the problem, but you do have to come together. If you want to be in a relationship, you have to come together and collaborate on those things. To come together and decide, okay, these are the things we need to do with our finances.
Okay.
And we'll
Okay.
talk a little bit more about that a little bit later about different accounts.
So part of what I hear you saying is don't finger point at each other back to we're on the same team. So if one person's a saver, the saver brings stability, which
Yes,
is good.
it's good.
If one person's a spender, the spender brings spontaneity,
Yeah,
which is good.
it is good.
Which is good,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So don't finger point. The whole point about this team concept is to learn how to work together.
A balance.
Okay, a
That's the
balance, a
word, a
balance.
balance, absolutely.
So together, we want to talk about how you can learn to set boundaries,
Mhm.
create shared goals,
That's right. That's what we need to do. We have to do that.
and find a rhythm that respects both perspectives. So it's not about you're right and I'm wrong, I'm right and you're wrong. It's about how do we work together as a team.
As a team,
See what I'm doing with the
absolutely.
whole team thing here?
Right, team is very important.
Okay, so what do we want to start? We're going to talk about secret debt and financial shame.
Well, sometimes I'm gonna say years ago when I was growing up, some of the older people would say, "Always put you a little money to the side,"
What does that even mean?
as a woman. And,
Secret money?
secret money,
That's just stupid.
well, I'm just telling you that's kinda how the
So you've
thing
got money
was.
to the side? I'm not aware of that.
No, I didn't take that on
But if you
because
did have money to the side,
that
like
would
if you
be
told me
great.
right
You'd
now
be
you had
excited.
like $300,000 to the side, I didn't know about, I would be mad.
You would be
I would
mad?
be mad. No, I wouldn't.
But no, sometimes,
Actually, maybe I would be mad. Why did I know about it? I don't know if I'd be mad or not, but go ahead.
but the main thing is that we definitely shouldn't be having, I guess, secret money to the side. I think that would take away the trust issue. That would be a trust issue between us, and we wouldn't necessarily want to do that.
Okay, so that's secret. Then you mentioned financial shame. What does that mean?
Well, let me say this. When you have not spent money correctly, let's just say you had a credit card and you just ran it all the way up and you feel bad about it. You knew, something happened in your life and you went out spending or whatever. So you do have a little shame behind why you have this particular debt.
You know, man, this is deep. One of the first learnings, let's go back to our story a little bit. Here's how we started out coming up with a plan and having conversations about money.
Yeah.
And here's the mistake I made. So I went off to this training that I mentioned, like it was a 2 or 3 day training, learning how to be, a certified financial coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I come back from that training, you remember this?
I do.
I designed a budget to the penny, and we even started out with envelopes. We literally started on a cash system to help us become accountable, putting money in envelopes, because here's the thing. When you're using cash and you've got money in envelopes, hey, and there's no more money in the envelope, like you got an envelope marked grocery,
Right.
and there's no money in there, you don't go get any more groceries.
Absolutely.
Or whatever your envelopes are. But back to the story. So I gave Teresa this budget, and then a few weeks later, I said to you, Teresa, we sit down and came up with a budget, and you're not following it. Why? You know what you said?
I do.
You said, hey, no, we didn't sit down and come up with a budget. You came up with a budget and gave it to me.
Exactly.
And until you said that, I didn't realize that was a huge error I'd made. I had developed a plan in a silo, gave it to my wife, like, here's our plan. That is really my plan. And then I was shocked that you weren't following it. Hey, I had a lot to learn.
Yes, you did. Because, how are we going to be a team and you over to the side doing your own play?
So what
work.
I learned from that was, okay, let's start over.
Okay.
Teresa, you're right. Let's start over. Let's come up with a plan together. Because I don't know if you thought my plan was too rigid, did you?
I thought it was a little rigid, yes.
You thought
It put me in a box.
Because I tend to track. I mean, I would spend hours sometimes reconciling bank statements that were 2 cents off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys even know kind of the whole idea. I don't know if people reconcile bank statements anymore, but I mean, if my balance didn't match, or if the bank balance didn't match my balance, and it was a 2 cent off, I'd find it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've done that too.
I have called the bank and found an error. Jim, it's only 2 cents. That's not the point. You see what I'm saying, Teresa?
I do.
It's a bigger thing.
Okay.
So that's the mistake I realized that we made. So then we later came together. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing I learned. I don't know if this fits under shame or secret debt topic, but here's another thing I learned married dealing with money. So I want to talk to the part about when you said you treat me like my daddy.
Oh, okay.
So remind me of how that story came about. Do you remember?
Well, you were issuing out money when I was asked. I had to ask for money.
Okay, now how do we get to that point? So we had a budget. So why were you asking me for money?
But at that time, we didn't have that specific budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Time.
Is that what led us to us coming up with?
I think so.
Okay. So what Teresa said, we're newly married. I don't know what she did at her daddy's house, right? So but here's what she said to me, as I'm remembering the story. You would come to me because were you a stay-at-home mom at the time?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
So most of our 40 years of marriage was one of the things we talked about prior to getting married. We wanted Teresa to be a stay-at-home mom, and we knew that was going to make us have to make some financial concessions, but we thought it was key. The point of the story is Teresa felt like she had to come to me, I need $100. Or back 40 years ago, it might have been I need $20. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think most of the time I would probably say okay.
You did. It was just the that act of having to come to you.
So back to our history. So what she said was, you're treating me like I'm a little girl. I feel like you're treating me like my daddy did, where I've got to come to you to ask for money, which again, we're newly married. We're learning. I'm like, oh, okay, my wife's feeling like that. Mm-hmm. Let me make a change.
Good.
So now we built a budget. And I got a little bit more flexible I still wanted every dollar to be accounted for, but now we just put in a category, miscellaneous or for Teresa or fun, mm-hmm. but it's still all about accounting for the money. So that's a learning that, and I don't know which of you in your relationship is a spender, who's a saver, who has the better financial acumen, but whoever that is, I want you to avoid the tendency to come up with a plan and give it to your spouse.
Absolutely. That's it.
So anything else you want to add about shame and?
So, I mean, just like you were kind of not understanding that, it usually comes from poor decision making, and you don't want people to know that. That's what that's all about. But I want to until you can become aware, you can't deal with the problem. So I don't want the shame to stop you from dealing with a financial issue.
I think I'm following you on this, but this whole shame thing. So I got one mm-hmm. spouse ran up credit card debt. Mm-hmm. I've heard stories about people hiding Amazon boxes. Hey, by the way, I noticed that we share an Amazon account and we see each other's everything. But the problem is, even if I want to order something for you for a surprise, you see it. I wonder if most people are doing that. But anyway, back to the hiding the boxes thing. Do you have real examples, like you've seen that in the therapy room, like the shame part, the hiding part?
Well, yeah, just like buying stuff and leaving it in their trunk, and buying stuff and putting it in the closet before he or she knows about it. Yeah, I've seen that many times. But of course, like I say, that's a cop out. That's not actually dealing with what needs to be handled. You are grown. You're an adult. If you're going to buy something and you need to let your husband know, let your wife know.
Wait a minute, everything I'm going to buy?
No, not everything you're going to buy, but if it's something you're trying to hide, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, because why are you trying to hide it?
Exactly. So be a man or be a woman about it, and be upfront about it. But but in order to deal with it and handle your shame, you need to bring it to awareness.
Doesn't this speak to a bigger problem, though?
It does.
Like if I'm buying stuff and hiding it from you, like in our situation, our finances are intermingled. Mm-hmm. Now, we have business accounts for separate businesses, but our personal finances are intermingled. Mm-hmm. So the people buying stuff and hiring it, can I conclude that their finances are separate?
Usually, an account is, yes.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like I say, if we had put it together, or if they had shared it, this is the way we want to have our finances. We'll have one housing account, and then we'll have each individual accounts. Then that would eliminate that problem. You see, because you can spend a certain amount of that account, and you don't have that shame. So I'm saying it would be kind of like that.
Okay, but I'm not a fan of that, by the way. So here's
What
what
do
I
you
would
mean you're
say.
not a fan
I'm
of?
not a fan of, because you said one housing account, the individual separate accounts.
Well, I said a housing account, but the individual accounts on the side, you still have to put in the housing account.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. If we had, and we do this, by the way, but we're just arguing the other side. If a couple decided we're going to have one housing account
Mm-hmm.
where we all share, see, this whole thinking has bothered me. It's like we don't come up with, I'm paying my part of the house note and you're paying your part, and I'm
Well,
paying my part of the grocery.
I'm just saying, I think in today's world, you have to make some distinction because both of you are working. I don't know how much are,
Why does it require making a distinction?
because there's two people working, they have funds they're putting together.
Okay, but
Does
here's
that
what
not
I'm
make
saying.
sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. But if we put all of our money in one pocket, like we do in
Mm-hmm.
one pot, and then we've got categories set up. So no matter how much money you make, it's how much money you make. The whole idea about having a plan is, where do you want those dollars to march off to, like little soldiers?
Yeah.
So if we have all our money in the same account, but one of our budget categories is gym, do whatever you want to do
Well, that's what.
with this amount of money.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
It's still in the same account,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a collaborative effort. And I know what you're saying. I know you've seen where people try to do the same thing separately, where I feel like you said earlier, I want to have my fund money. I want to do my own thing separately.
Right.
But anyway.
But I'm just saying that would eliminate the shame.
Got you.
If we had that like that, even though where that money is, where that money is
So
going.
are we saying that, or are you going to offer exceptions? Are we saying our counsel is, you want to have a collaborative, blended all your money together, or what are we saying? I know what I'm saying. What are you saying?
Where you're saying you want to know where your money is going, and you both should come up with that decision.
Do you think it matters whether the money is together or separate?
Well, just from financial, it should be together. And the reason I say that is each of you need to know what's going on in that area.
So it's kind of about transparency, and again,
And trust.
And trust. So the whole idea is that we can still have individual things we do. Now, I would argue that you want to account for it. So the money's together, but we got budget categories. So.
And that's just good stewardship, and it's not also, and it's not you, I guess, trying to be, I guess, deceitful in any way. You're being open and honest.
This reminds me of us when we would take family vacations, and I would come up with a family itinerary. Mm-hmm. Because after all, who would take a vacation without an itinerary? And I remember you and the kids would get together behind my back, and you would come and say, "Hey, Dad, we don't like that you've got every minute accounted for," because who would make an itinerary without every minute accounted for? And you would say, "We want just some free time to do nothing."
Yeah, I know.
Remember what I would say?
You'll plan that in.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of free time to do nothing. Let's just put it in the plan. So 3 to 5, do nothing. So kind of what I hear us saying about the money thing is, if you want money that you can do whatever you want, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not against that, but let's write it into the plan.
Okay. All right. So I also want to just tap in on when we don't have these kinds of conversations, when we are trying to avoid the financial conversation, then in the relationship, it brings about mistrust.
Okay, now, so you and I aren't talking about money at all. We're married, let's say an example could be a couple of dating because I know we have different situations now.
Mhm.
So you're not saying we argue about money, we don't talk about it at all.
Right, well, you might talk about it a little bit, but you're not really sharing your goals and putting things together and planning and having that comfortability in the finances. If you don't have that, it does lead to mistrust on both parts.
So if we're not talking about it and I don't know what you're doing, unfortunately, I think I hear what you're saying is I assume the negative.
A lot of times, yes. That's
Okay.
just where our little heads go
Okay.
to
Okay.
sometimes.
All right. Another thing is when you don't have conversations about money, to me, this is a key one. It prevents teamwork.
Right, and in a relationship, you gotta have the teamwork,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You got to be on the same team. You got to have a team vision and a team plan. Hey, we are striving to get completely debt free. That's our
Mhm.
plan. We want to pay off our house. That's our plan. We want to buy a new house. We want to buy some land and build a family estate. So the thing about it is now that you're having these conversations, you're working as a team, but when you don't have them, I'm trying to, I'm over here trying to pay off our house, and you're over here trying to figure out how to buy a bigger house,
Yeah,
for
and
example.
so we're not on the same mind we're not in the same mindset,
Yeah. Yeah.
not on the not on the same wavelength, and that causes confusion
So
and mistrust.
the thing about teamwork is something we used to do all the time. We've kind of gotten away from this, but we used to have what we call an annual planning meeting.
Yeah, January.
January,
Mhm,
we would sit down. Here's our plan. Here's how we closed out the year.
mhm.
And here's the point we're making. You guys got to be really intentional. Here's how we closed out last year. Here's what we want to accomplish for the upcoming year.
Mhm,
And just like you might have at work or any business entity,
mhm.
in our little marriage entity, we'd have planning sessions where we talk about what do we want to do.
Right, I used to love planning,
Sometimes
what
we go away.
vacation.
Sometimes we go away for our plan.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we did do that.
sometimes
Go
we go
to a
away for our
hotel
planning
somewhere.
session and we
Uh-huh.
talk about our trips because at the time the kids were small. We had 4 kids at home, and we always took at least one family trip a year, sometimes two.
Yes.
And so, but I mean, those were planned, those were discussions. Where are we going this year? How much is it going to cost? How much money do we need to put aside? So, yeah,
And
yeah.
that brings about, I mean, I love the shared goals because it brings about connection as well if you want to in the relationship.
Okay, another thing, when you don't have financial conversations, then what's another problem?
It just increased anxiety. People talk about having anxiety around finances or whatever. It just breeds something's not right. Something's driving the anxiety on the financial road.
Got you, got you,
Yeah,
got you.
and we don't need that in our relationship.
Do you think it's fair to say, and I don't know that it matters who's the primary wage earner, but do you think it's fair to say that generally speaking, men tend to shoulder that responsibility? So like I feel a personal amount of pressure. I have our whole 40 years of marriage that I have to provide for my family. Sometimes you've worked outside the home. Sometimes you've not worked outside the home. Sometimes you've earned more money than me.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've earned more money than you. But I've always felt like whatever that situation was, that was my primary responsibility. So when we talk about the anxiety and the pressure, do you think that men feel that more than women?
I do because I think God has given them that for He's given them in the hierarchy of what we believe our faith. God has called the man to make sure that he is the priest, provider, and protector of his home.
Priest, prophet, provider, protector. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't say prophet, but
Well,
you
but
said that.
I'm adding that in. That's what I say. We're called to be priest, prophet, provider, protector. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think God is giving you guys that. It doesn't mean that you are making the most money or whatever. It doesn't mean that but I do feel like you guys shoulder that.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think, of course, there are single parents who have to shoulder that as well. But yes, I think the man has been given that
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that the woman doesn't play a part there.
Now, this leads me to the next thing you want to talk about is when you don't have financial conversations, it leads to resentment. Because while I do feel like it's my financial burden, even when I wasn't working and you were, I feel like it was still my responsibility. Now, here's what we're not saying. We're not saying that one person should be in charge of the finances. Right. The person who should be in charge, and I say in charge, the day-to-day administrative duties of your finances is the person in the marriage and the relationship best equipped to do that.
Right. And even doing that, you are going to sit down and have some meetings, along the way.
Because if you're managing the money, and we've taken turns about it, there have been times when you handle the budget entries and the bank account reconciliation. And there have been times when I've done it, but whoever is actually doing it, the important thing is the conversation, the communication. So even the other person out of the loop is aware of what's going on.
Absolutely. So just what does the team? What would a team do like that? I just thought about that. A team does that where you go out and you do all the practice work, whatever. But then, and sometime you guys come in to do a general session, right? Is that how that works?
So I mean, there are a lot of examples from teamwork. I mean, there could be like a coach, let's say a coach and the quarterback coming up with a game plan, okay, in their individual meetings.
Right, okay.
And then we come together in a team meeting to give the overall picture for the game plan.
Yeah.
And then to tell each position group, like I played offensive tackle, hey, here's how your position group needs to help us execute the game plan.
Yeah.
Hey, here are the receivers, here's the running back. I was on the offensive side, so I don't use a lot of defensive examples. Sorry to my defensive guys, but yeah, that would be an example.
Yeah,
it's different pieces of the team all working together for a common goal.
Absolutely.
But back to what we're saying, you know what that required? We had team meetings day after day after day.
Absolutely.
Now we're not suggesting that you guys do that, but we are suggesting that you have team meetings.
Right. So it keeps down resentment in the relationship.
Okay. Also, when you don't have financial conversations, when you don't talk about money, you say, Teresa, it stifles intimacy.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, anytime there's some type of discord, in the counseling center, when I'm trying to get to a place, I have to move some things out of the way before I can get to the really core of the problem. And for instance, if let's just say intimacy, there's an intimacy problem. If I got a financial problem sticking out there, then we got to figure out that. We got to figure that out before I can get the mind off of that so that we can go into what actually is causing the problem.
I thought I understood what you do, but that example makes it clear. So what you said is sometimes people come in with a problem,
right? They
think,
yeah,
but it's really a symptom.
It
hey,
is.
What's the problem? What are you guys here for? We're just not experiencing the kind of intimacy that we want to experience. That's what they think's the problem. But as you start digging deeper, it could be because here's something that's going on or not going on with money, for example.
It could be money. It could be parenting children, dealing with that kind of stuff. It could be being too busy. Someone's out of the house all the time. It can be a lot of things. So I have to move all that out of the way in order to get to the core.
So you're doing real work in the counseling center.
Yeah, that's.
I thought y'all just been there talking. So okay,
we do talk. Okay, but that is not all of it.
All right. So when you don't have financial conversations, when you and your spouse don't sit down and talk about this, you also explain this, it delays critical decisions. What does that mean?
From let's say spending plans or paying down your debt, you're not on the same page. So it just is. Those are critical things to make things better. If you're not on the same page and doing them, we're just wasting a lot of time.
Okay, I got that. It delays critical decisions. The other thing you say, Teresa, is that it sends the message. And I'm not clear. I want you to talk about that. You say it sends the message, I don't trust you with my truth. Now, when I hear the word my truth, I get a little nervous.
I know I do too.
Because I think about, because that's a big thing now. Everybody got my truth. That's stupid to me. I'm more concerned about the truth. I don't give a darn about your truth.
And we get the truth from our faith.
Okay, yeah.
From God Almighty.
So when you say, when you don't have a conversation with me about money, it sends the message, I don't trust you. Go a little bit deeper.
It just sends a message that, okay, I don't trust you with what I really need. I don't trust you with, there's something going on there that's causing, um, maybe it's a fear of judgment or something. I just don't trust you with what I need. That's pretty much the best I guess I can put that.
So here's
It's
what I hear
not a
you saying.
safe place.
We were talking about an upcoming.
Space.
Here's what I just heard you say. We were talking the other day about an upcoming show that we want to do about the 5 dysfunctions of marriage,
Mhm.
and we started talking about what was the first one? When there's an absence of trust, what that gets is a lack of transparency and vulnerability.
Mhm.
So what you're saying is when there's an absence of trust because we're not having these conversations,
Right.
then I'm not vulnerable because, hey, why would I be vulnerable? Because I can't trust you.
Exactly. There's something holding you up there.
Okay.
Holding that
Okay.
that connection up.
All right. So now let's talk about some mindset reframes. You
Okay.
say money is a mirror.
Mhm.
Money is a mirror, meaning that how we relate to money reflects about deeper parts of who we already are, which that reminds me of something that I'll tell you the first time I heard this, because everybody says it now, but probably 40 years ago, here's the first time I heard this. Money doesn't change people. I'm sitting at church. Remember like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
I'm sitting at church, and you remember who said it? You don't.
I don't.
I'm going to tell you in just a second. And so Pastor Jerry Young
Uh-huh.
said, money doesn't change people. And so I'm sitting listening to a sermon, and my first response was, that's not right. Right. So then he followed up with, all money does is make you more of what you already are.
Mhm.
Now I'd heard my whole life, money changes you, money changes you. But as I pondered and I reflected on that comment, I came to totally embrace and agree with that. Money doesn't change you. All money does is make you more of who you already are. So when you say money is a mirror,
Mhm.
what are you saying?
Well, just like you said, it reflects just a deeper part of who we really are.
So I've heard you say before, money doesn't create issues, it reveals issues.
It does.
So we get a bunch of money or a person gets a bunch of money and they seemingly become more aloof and arrogant and condescending and whatever other negative things. What I believe is true and what it sounds like you're saying when you say money is a mirror is that person was always like that.
It was already there. They just didn't let it show.
Well, why didn't they let it show? Why does it? I agree.
I don't know if they felt like I can't be that way because
But they are that way.
But they are that way, right? I'm just saying it comes up, and that's amazing too. I mean, I've heard this in many athletes they become totally different people after they receive a large sum of money.
Well, seemingly become totally different people.
Seemingly,
They become more of who they already are. Wow.
Exactly.
You say, Teresa, in relationships, money reflects each person's story. It shows how we define success, what we feel entitled to.
Mhm.
Wow, that's not an entitlement attitude. That's not a good thing. How much control we need and whether we're driven by fear, security, status, or freedom. And you say when two people with different money mirrors come together, conflict is almost guaranteed unless they're willing to look honestly at their reflections.
Absolutely.
But did you come up with this? Is this yours? Did
That's
you come
me.
up? This is pretty good stuff,
It is
actually.
pretty
I've
good.
never heard this.
But
I've never heard it put together like this.
Yes, but
So when you're up there in the office working, you really be working on stuff.
I've been working on stuff. You're right.
Okay, because a lot of episodes we do together. Some I do, some that she does. Sometimes we're putting the outline together. So this was her. This is really good.
Well, I mean, that life story about finances, I mean, that's a big thing that I've dealt with all my life. That's
Now, how have you dealt with that all your life?
Well, as a young person, I did have to go to my father for money, and
Doesn't everybody go with their father for money as a young person?
well, but we would get stories, we would get not as much as we needed, even
Now,
though
want it or need it?
want it, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe
okay,
want
okay,
it.
Okay.
But yes, that did. So I came from a place of I had everything I needed and some of the things I wanted, but it was just something about the frugalness of the way my father was. He was just kind of frugal, and sometimes I wanted different things.
So, that's a great example because we oftentimes lean to the other side. Somebody gets a bunch of money and they go spending crazy. But if money makes you more of who you already are, and we believe that to be true, sometimes people can get a bunch of money, a lot more money, and become greater hoarders.
True,
So
because they have a fear of not having.
got you.
They have a fear of, will I have enough? And you see that with hoarders.
Yeah.
Hoarders are all, that's
Is
their
that
whole
is that the
mindset.
root of that?
Their whole mindset of, I might need that, or I don't.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that what they're thinking?
that's their whole little thing in their little
I'm
head.
not sure I knew that. So a hoarder is thinking, the reason this is over here is because there may be some point in the future.
I might need it.
Really?
Because I don't want to ever have to need that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's a driven anxiety, yes.
Okay. The point being, when we talk about money conversations and money being a mirror, it's never just about the bills. And you say it's not about the money, but it's what about the money represents. So when you look at your money, your spending, your savings, your giving, that's hopefully you've got a giving plan. You're asking yourself, what does this say about what I believe? What am I really trying to protect, pursue, or prove?
Right. Because money will always reflect something deeper in you. So the question really becomes, when you're looking in the mirror, it says it kind of you want to look at your money story. You want to look deeper into that. That becomes the questions. Are you willing to look deeper into your mirror of yourself, to really deal with that?
These are conversations, we talk a lot about preparing for marriage and what dating couples should be doing. I'm imagining these are conversations dating couples are almost never having.
I don't think so,
Like,
but I think
what's
they
your
have
money
to.
story?
Yeah, they do really need to have that money story, at least, and it could just be a short paragraph to tell, this is how I see money, this is what money means to me, this is how I feel about money. Because, money is it says a lot about a person.
You know how I feel about money?
You need more of it.
No, that's
What?
actually not what I was going to say. I got no need or use for money at all.
Okay.
I just like the stuff you can get with it.
Oh, that sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Of course, that would be
so a
everybody.
stack of $100 bills, like floor to ceiling, that in and of itself, that's paper. But it's the stuff you can trade it for is what I
And
like.
what you get to do with it.
Yeah. So money, I used to teach this in class. People there's so many spiritual myths we used to talk about. One of them being, you've heard this, money is the root of all evil. The Bible says that. Well, actually, it's not what the Bible says.
Right.
The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is spiritually neutral. Money is not bad or good. So there's so many, that's part of what we used to do in that class. We used to debunk spiritual myths.
And how many times, I forgot, is it 2,300 times that money is mentioned in the Bible?
Money is
it
perhaps, I've forgotten the number. I used to know that when I was teaching the class, but money is, scripture about money, I think, are the most prevalent scripture reference story in all of scripture.
Yeah.
So and why? Because money is a perfect spiritual indicator. If you let me walk through your account ledger, your checkbook, or your bank statement, I can tell you a lot about who you are. Or better said, that will tell me a lot about who you are. Like you and I, we have a giving plan.
Right.
We want to give away more money.
Absolutely.
That's a big part of who we are. We've got ministries that we want to see supported. So connecting hearts. So we've talked about the separation and the discord. So now let's talk about connecting hearts through finances. What are some ways a couple can become connected through finances?
And one thing we mentioned a little bit a little bit earlier, we said monthly check-ins, or at least do check-ins. But the monthly check-ins just gives you, it brings you on the same page. It gets you on the same page. It helps you think about, what's working, what's not. What do we need to do? So that monthly check-in is important, and that strengthens communication and transparency by doing that. So those monthly check-ins are important.
One thing I've heard you say is that the monthly check-in should be judgment-free.
Right.
It's not a I can't believe you. Why did you?
Right.
It's more of a reporting. It's a check-in. It should be a safe space because if you're going to browbeat me when I come to the monthly check-in,
Yeah.
that's gonna tempt me to not be as transparent.
Exactly. You're going to want to avoid that.
Yeah.
Right. Or
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
be, like you say, lack of
Yeah.
transparency will
Yeah.
be, we
Okay.
would
Okay.
definitely be there.
So a monthly check-in, you talk about it should strengthen communication and transparency.
Right.
You want to review the budgeting when you do that. You want to celebrate progress, like a debt paid off or something like that.
Yeah.
You want to identify upcoming expenses, birthday trips, renewals. Talk about how money decisions felt emotionally, not just mathematically, and then kind of revisit the shared goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all good. And also, another thing that helps in connecting
Okay.
is having that. We talked about we call it a dream budget, or
Okay.
versus a fear budget, or a dream spending plan versus a fear spending plan, and what that looks like.
Okay, but here's a great example. Just the other day,
Mm-hmm.
a few weeks ago now, I said to you, I said, Teresa, you remember this? I said, of all the places that we've lived, if money wasn't a factor, where do you think you'd want to live? And you said, hey, one of my favorite places that we've lived has been Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah.
But then you said, now we're talking about dream versus fear. Then you said, despite how I set the conversation up, you said, but Illinois state taxes are so high, and they are. They're crazy, But then I said to you, I said, Teresa, my question was if money was no object. So if money is no object, we don't care how much the taxes are. So is it Naperville or not? So that's the interesting thing about a relationship, given how different people were brought up and their background and their experiences. Even with me kind of setting the parameters of that conversation,
I reverted back.
You reverted back to kind of
sure
more
did.
fear budgeting
I did.
than dream budgeting. You and I've worked on a dream house design. We've never built a house. We've moved to a lot of different houses, but we've never built a house. And sometimes when I say to you, hey, let's kind of talk about our house design, I notice your goals seem to have more constraints. I'd like this, but I'm not sure we can afford it.
Right.
And then whereas my goal is like, here's what I like. Obviously, we can't afford it. We're not going to get it. But to me, it's really a dream. What is it about our backgrounds that make us approach that differently? Because our backgrounds are pretty similar. We both grew up on farms. My parents were both school teachers. Your mom was a teacher. Your dad wasn't a school teacher, but I would say we grew up kind of the same. A lot of our food and living, we raised on the farm. So what is it about our backgrounds differently that makes me more of a dream budgeter naturally, and you more, if you tell me if you disagree, naturally a fear budgeter?
I think that goes way back to, I guess my father being frugal and having to pay attention to things in order to have things.
Well, that's not bad.
No, it's not a bad
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
No, it's not a bad thing. But it also brought about some constraints to say, always the baseline is fear of not having enough.
So tell me if you disagree. It appears that your natural style is more fear-based budgeting, and my natural style is more dream-based budgeting. And that's not to say we both shouldn't come here. Maybe I should be a little bit more, I don't like the word fear, but maybe should be a little bit more conservative in terms of my budgeting, and maybe you should be a little bit more dream-based.
I agree with that, and I do acknowledge that that's definitely has been a part of how I've responded to things. Absolutely, even with the children, I can remember I would make sure they have the best of things, yes, but then I would go to the secondhand store to get my things. And
Really?
yeah, because I felt like, okay,
They're kids at
I
home.
I wanted them to be where they needed to be and have what they needed. And then if I needed anything, I would go to the secondhand store, but I would be just as happy there myself, really, because I wasn't a big thing of having to have designer things and all that. Wasn't my
So
thing.
you have a tendency, it's what?
I put the
You
kids
put yourself
first.
last.
I always put
You put
myself.
yourself
Yeah,
last.
I do. I do. because it's not something I have to have. I've never had to be that person to, I have to have this.
Hey, I'm gonna make an admission here in front of everybody.
Okay.
I have a tendency to put myself
You
first.
do.
So
I think that's a little selfish, isn't
it
it?
is a little selfish. Hey, I promise we're going to be completely transparent on this show.
Yeah,
This is
I
just real
know.
talk. This is real talk. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah,
So, wow. So, fear budgeting sounds like I don't put myself first as much as I used to.
you're better. I
I'm
agree.
better.
And I'm a better at
And you are better at,
not
because I would encourage you all the time to go get yourself something or go buy yourself something. I remember we bought you a car on eBay. You remember this?
I do.
This is this is a long time ago when this was not that common. And I remember we bought a Mercedes on eBay and you really struggled with driving that car.
I did.
Why?
It was like,
It's just a car.
I know it was just a car, but it was a car that it carried a lot of status for some
Did it?
reason. For people, I just look. I mean, the way people responded to me in a car in the Mercedes was, yeah.
Now again, hey, everybody drives around Mercedes now,
I
but
know
this
it's
was
not a
what
big
was
deal.
this, the 90s maybe? This was 30 years ago.
Yeah, a long time
when
ago.
it was not that common, not as common as it is now. Okay. All right. So fear budgeting sounds like we can't afford anything. What if we run out? You spend too much.
Yeah.
That's kind of some common statements of fear-related budgeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now you talk about account structure. We talked about this a little bit. Yours, mine, ours. So you want to respect autonomy at the same time promote unity. So ours, walk through yours, mine, ours.
So just looking at hours, it would be the most important things: the rent, the mortgage, whatever we have. That's most important. Groceries and utilities, vacations, all of that would be ours,
Okay.
right? And then there would be yours and mine in those spaces where you could get whatever, have a certain amount of money that you use, and I have a certain amount of whether you use it or not. We still have that money for if I wanted to go to Starbucks or whatever, I don't have to deal with the main budget or whatever.
Okay. But now we mentioned this a few minutes ago. So I would argue we can do the same thing under one account with the budget set up. Okay, so
Or the spending plan.
or the spending, yeah, 'cause
People run away from budget.
people do think budget's a negative word. It's not, but
It's
but
just
it has negative
just
connotations.
yeah, it's just saying this is where my money is going. That's
Yeah,
all it's saying.
that's all it's saying.
And
It's
it's
a
not
plan.
it's not
It's
a
a plan.
restriction per
Yeah,
se.
yeah. It's actually freeing.
It is. It should
It's
be.
actually freeing.
It should be.
Hey, one of the first things I learned with the budget in terms of it being freeing, we mentioned we're big givers, right? So let's say somebody walks by your door, and I know this is kind of maybe legalistic, but here's the first thing I learned about budgeting when we started. Hey, I need $100 for this. Now that you've got a budget. So in our budget, we've got money set aside for giving, for benevolence, for helping, whatever. So now somebody walks by, let's say it's one of the kids. I need $100. I don't have $100. Dad, I see your budget sheet there. It looks like there's $29,000 in there. Yeah, but I don't have $100 in this category for what you're asking me for.
Right.
Because the money we allocated in that category, we've already spent.
Right.
Is that making sense to everybody? That's the freedom of a spending plan.
And that's being, I think, a good steward.
It's actually being a good steward.
Yeah, and you're not you won't feel overwhelmed and having all the anxiety and all of that if you stay within those boundaries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So some of the benefits that you talk about of having the right account structure is it preserves dignity, kind of like the story we talked about I feel like I'm coming to you like my dad.
Right.
So now I know that you're going to, this is not true, but if you stopped at Starbucks every morning, that was your deal, and let's say that was $174 a month, we need to talk about, can we afford that? But, oh yeah, sure we can. Well, then let's put it in the budget. So now it's not like you don't need to hide your radical crazy Starbucks addiction. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just using for example.
Right, because it's not me. Because
Yeah,
I'm not.
I'm not sorry, say it's not you, but for the people out there who may fit in this category, is so now that we put that in the budget, you don't need to hide your purchases each morning
Absolutely. So
because
you
we've
don't need to-
accounted for it.
Right. You don't have to be ashamed of that. It also prevents micromanagement. Nobody wants to be micromanaged
That's a good
in that
point.
area.
Which you felt like you were being micromanaged when we started.
Absolutely.
But that's the other thing.
You were a little controlling.
I was a little controlling. I came up with this budget and I want to see it followed.
Okay.
But later on we collaborated, which is one of the things you talked about.
Right.
All right. A money story explanation. Each person brings a financial backstory. It must be unpacked, not ignored. Mm-hmm. So what were some of your early money messages? This was one of my common things growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, that's what they say.
It didn't make any sense, but at the time, I guess I later on understood what they meant out. But it's kind of like my mom said, you can't have your cake and eat it too. That never made sense to me. Later it did. But anyway, so money doesn't grow on trees, or growing up, we never talked about money at all. That's not a good thing.
No.
Understanding financial trauma or scarcity mindsets. Hey, so we've had financial trauma. We've talked about our story about how we lost everything. Mm-hmm. We lost our home. We lost our rental homes. We lost our cars. We sold family possessions that
we did.
That can't be replaced.
Cannot be replaced.
Valuable, priceless, memorable antiques that we cannot
get back.
What's the effect of that financial trauma on us, do you think, Teresa?
Well, I think we still have we work hard and we want to have things in order. So I think that led us to make sure we have a trust or will trust situation. I think it led us to not spending. We spend what we need and want, but we save and make sure we have money for others and helping and the things. I think it helped us look at the future and say, let us be good stewards of the money that God is providing for us.
So do you regret, what we did is we actually, in the really early 2000s, we took our life savings at the time and we bought those 70 houses. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously that was 2002, 3. By 2009, the real estate market crashed. We lost everything.
It was 2008, but go ahead.
It was 2009 when I filed bankruptcy.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I got the timeline here, Teresa. Do you regret that decision?
I don't.
Because we talked about it
we did.
Before. We're about to take everything we have and make this decision, which didn't work out well. Mm-hmm. Tell me.
So no, I don't regret it now that I look back, because the journey has been truly insightful.
So you're glad we lost everything?
No,
okay,
it's been insightful. It helped us. It helped me have a different mindset about some things.
You have said in the past, tell me if I'm misquoting you, we are better because of that.
I think we are fine.
That's crazy.
We're spiritually better in trusting God. I think it took a lot of trust in God and know that He is truly our provider, and that was growth, because I think I could be a little controlling myself in thinking I could do something myself, Mm-hmm. But yes, I think it was freeing almost to go through that. Now that when we look back at it, it's almost a beautiful experience, even though it was difficult.
Okay.
And you could see how God was working. He was actually, it was like hands-on working.
What I would
during
say
our time.
Is what I hear you saying is Romans 8:28 is that all things work together for good, which I would agree with that, but all things ain't good. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, they were difficult, but
yeah. So all things work together.
It did work together for good.
But hey, I've had money and I've not had money. I like having money better. Do you know what I'm saying, Teresa?
How did we get to that?
We're talking about trauma. All right. So you mentioned a goal alignment and financial vision board.
Yeah, I think we should have something like that. You need to Well, as a matter of fact, when we went through that financial thing, we were making sure that maybe we had an emergency fund.
You mean what financial thing?
When you went through the financial
Oh,
planning
yeah,
thing
I
and we
got you.
were
I got
writing
you.
stuff down and had
Yeah.
the envelopes and all that, one of those main things
Yeah,
in dealing
yeah.
with good goals and alignment and whatever was to make sure we have an emergency fund.
Gotcha.
So you had short-term and long-term goals for your finances.
Yeah, yeah. We talk about some of our goals. Having an emergency fund. Hopefully, some of your goals: a debt-free journey, budgeting for travel, for education, for legacy giving. This is something I think most.
I wanted to ask the question. You think this society, the I don't know, the people of today want to be debt-free? And I mean, do you think they think that's the thing?
That's a good question. I think there's a portion of society that absolutely wants to be debt-free. I think there's another portion who doesn't realize the advantages or the importance of doing it. But yeah, I think absolutely you have those people. I mean, Dave Ramsey's built a whole brand on his, if I reduce his brand to one word, it's debt.
Yeah.
It's the avoidance of debt. So yeah, and he has a huge following. So I think there is a part of society that understands that. Here's what I think among people of color, given our history and our struggles, I don't think we have the right amount of thought that we give to legacy giving. I don't think we have sit down and very intentionally thought about, let me tell you a saying that we have. We didn't come from money, but our kids will. And people think that's, I want my kids to work for their stuff. I do too.
Oh, absolutely. They have to.
But we are very intentional and very conscious about, we want to leave more and better. And it's not just money. There's a lot of things associated with leaving a legacy. But I don't think, tell me if you agree or disagree, Black people in America, for so long, we struggle with just enough or not enough.
People of color.
People of color. Okay, so now many of us have not transitioned to, we've taken care of us. Now let's start making preparations for next, second, and third generation us's.
Yeah.
So I think that's a room for us to improve. And you and I just went through kind of a whole trust, estate planning, revision, putting everything in place. Now, let me say this. There are some influencers out there who do talk about generational wealth. There's Earn Your Leisure. Is it Ross Mack?
I think that's him.
There are people in this space, but let me tell you where I come from when I say that. So I mentioned in an earlier episode that I coach and train entrepreneurs and people in the financial service space. And when I sit down with a certain segment of our population, here are the conversations we have. Hey, Jim, I'm buying life insurance. Actually, this policy I'm buying is for my grandchildren. I had the conversation this week. I'm buying this policy for my grandchildren. Really? Because I already got my children taken care of.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay. But now when I visit and I know these are generalizations, and I know this doesn't reflect everybody. That's why it's called a generalization. But often people who look like me, it's a struggle. Hey, you need life insurance yourself. Hey, I really can't afford it. And I don't hear a lot of talking about, much less life insurance. Hopefully life insurance on me will extend to you if you're living when I'm dead, and then our children. But I see people planning generations ahead. I've got policies for me and my wife and children. I'm buying this policy. The beneficiary is my grandchildren.
Okay.
The beneficiary is my university. The beneficiary is my sorority.
My church.
My church.
Yes.
My church. And I know historically, and I get it. Jim, we haven't had the resources. We haven't had the money. I get that. All I'm saying is I want to see that changing, and I want to see us aware. And I think we can start with, let's make sure that our family is taken care of. And we are big life insurance proponents. We are not on the only right insurance to buy is term. We don't personally have term. We have permanent insurance. We can get into that whole discussion later. But here's what I would say overriding. Make sure you got something. Don't spend a lot of time talking about what's the right. Make sure you got something.
Right. And the main thing is leaving a legacy of some sort.
Yeah.
And that comes with the finances is important.
Okay, so you want to revisit these goals. You suggest quarterly.
Yeah.
You talk about conflict resolution around money. You say conflict is inevitable.
Yeah.
But intimacy grows when you handle it well. Okay, expound.
Exactly. You just want to create some ground rules for financial disagreements. Like you don't want to pause instead of, or you might want to pause sometimes instead of reacting. You might want to, not blame, not point the finger at one, but say. You don't want to say you always or those type things. Those are the negatives. So get away from that. Focus on the outcome and not what you've dealt with in the past. And like I say, sometimes if you have a financial trauma, you need to talk it out. That's what I had to do. I had to talk it out through.
That was part of your therapy. So part of you being in the master's program to become a therapist, everybody was asked to go to therapy.
Yes, we had to go to therapy.
And so we haven't talked a lot about what you talked about in those individual therapy sessions, but apparently part of what you talked about was specifically money related.
Yes.
What y'all say?
Part of that was it. But the main thing is to deal with your own trauma when it comes to that, and so that you can go forward.
Okay. Now, faith, values, and giving together. For many couples, generosity is part of their financial identity. I think we are givers. I want to give more. We actually track our giving. We think the tithe, the 10% is just the start. So we consciously, intentionally every year want to increase that. So how should a couple's faith or values shape their giving?
Well, it comes down to what God has told us to do. We are to take care of His people, and that's what we do by sharing. We're taking care of His people,
and we believe the tithe is one of the many blessings with a promise. If you do this, you will get this. If you give, I will open up the windows of heaven. Now, again, we don't give to get. We just happen to get when we give. It's not the motivation.
Absolutely. But yes, we are to leave that, leave that for others to take care of God's people is my main thing. Is taking care of God's people.
Align your money with your mission.
Yeah, that would be good.
Things that are important to us, our local church is important, but then we go beyond that. Like I mentioned, the foreign ministries that we support, people like you met in seminary that went off to minister in other countries that we still support. So okay.
So those are very important.
So some things for you guys to think about. What money story did you inherit? When do I feel the most anxious about money? What are 3 financial goals that you want to achieve? And then as a couple, what's one thing I admire about how you handle money?
Yeah. That's a good place.
Yeah, that is a good place. That's a good place. Here's what we want you to do. In our show notes, we have a plan to walk you through how to develop a personal relationship with Jesus. Jim, I'm not into that religion stuff. We're not either. We're talking about a relationship, not a religion. So look in the show notes, walk through the plan of salvation, pray the prayer, and then let us know that you have become a Christ follower. That's why we do this show. That's about our mission. It's a mission to influence, change the world, not only about how marriage is done, but about how each of us live personally. So that's what we want to do. Thank you guys for joining us. Please share this episode with a friend, a spouse, if you guys aren't listening together, so this can help you get on the same page. Use it as a conversation starter. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.